program, and you won't want to miss it. Check your registration packet for details. And now on to Doug Graham. Dr. Doug Graham, is a world-class athletic trainer and respected lecturer, a doctor of chiropractic. He's an animal rights activist and an environmental activist who has been a raw vegan for over 25 years. He is the author of Grain Damage, Nutrition and Athletic Performance, and the ever-popular 80-10-10 Diet. How many people have read any of Dr. Graham's books? Okay, fantastic. Dr. Graham conducts workshops and fasting retreats internationally. And a couple of years ago, I acknowledged Dr. Graham, and I'm going to tell you what I told him privately. I said, and I met Dr. Graham about 8 years ago. I said, you know, Doug, today I see the world differently because of you. You asked questions that provoked in me changes in my whole way of seeing life and the planet and everything around me. So I wanted you to know how grateful I am, because there aren't too many people who have been able to provoke me as powerfully as you have. So I have a great deal of gratitude every day for Dr. Douglas Graham, as well as his beautiful family who's in England right now. And so this is a man who's deeply dedicated to the subject of health and wellness. And I want to ask that everyone give him a rousing ovation that will match the depth, attempt to match the depth of his commitment to you. Let's give him a hand right now.
Thank you so very much. That's really kind, David, and all of you. Thank you so very much. I haven't worked out the knack of standing behind the podium, so I'm supposed to hold this thing up next to my face. There we go. It's a treat to be here and talk about exercise. It's so much better to talk about exercise than to actually go out and do it, isn't it? Oh, didn't they tell you this is a workshop? Everybody up. No, I'm only kidding. Sherry and I always have these lengthy conversations. Every year, lengthy conversations. She writes to me, she knows to write to me months earlier than she writes to everybody else and say, Doug, so what are your topics for this year going to be? And I write back to her and I send her the titles and she goes, could you send some descriptions with that? So I send the descriptions. And then she writes back and she goes, well, do you think we could alter the titles slightly? Where were you planning to go with this? We're done. Thank you all very much. There we go. We're back to functional. Some years we bang heads a little more aggressively than other years. So this year I just decided to just totally baffle her. And I sent her first round titles and descriptions that I felt fully confident that she would accept. I mean, I've never done that. And lo and behold, she just said, wow, these are great. And that was the end of it. And that was 6 months ago. I don't remember what this topic was supposed to be anymore. I had a really good idea at the time, though. Basically, the concept is simple. Weed the kids out of the audience. So, no, I'm only kidding. Basically, the concept is simple. I mean, it's pretty easy to be fit when you're 10 or 20 or even 30. It just almost happens automatically. There's not much you can do about it. You've got fitness left over from when you were 8. But at some point, if you choose to be fit at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, it's intentional. You made a conscious decision. I remember talking with Jack Lane. He and I have had many conversations, and I hold him in high regard. And he said, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is to get out of a warm bed next to a beautiful woman in order to go to a cold gym and pick up cold steel. You know, it's like, I can understand. And that's what he did. He got up early, he got it done. His philosophy was always, get it done first. It's the hardest part of the day, get it done. After that, everything else is easy. Okay. And that works for a lot of people. Anybody here who finds it really works to do their exercise last thing of the day? That works for them. Okay, I got 2 hands go up. And does anything ever come up that prevents you from getting it in last? Life intervenes, it seems. Has anybody ever noticed that you meant to do it first and then you say, no, I'm going to do it a little later, and I'll get it in a little later, I'll get it in a little later, and things just keep coming up? I've really thought I should, there's 2 companies I'd like to start. I'd like to start a company called OMT. I think OMT would just do great guns of business. One more thing. You know, and our motto would be, because there's always one more thing. And then the other company would be JSM. And I think our motto would be, no one will call. No salesman will bother you. We won't send you anything in the mail. In fact, we have no product. Just send money. It's pretty easy to be fit when you're a kid. You just go out and play. Somewhere along the line, the work ethic imposes itself into your brain. And the intensity level goes down dramatically in your fitness activities because you get methodical about it. You start working out rather than going out and playing. And there's just no way that you can get the same benefits from doing less than you could from doing more. It's the classic story. It's the classic story about the rabbit and the cat, the rabbit and the cheetah, the rabbit and the whoever's chasing the rabbit. Who's fitter? Well, the rabbit has to be. Because the cheetah's just running for its dinner, while the rabbit is running for its life. When I go out to play, I want to be the rabbit. Because otherwise I'm just, you know, if I catch this one, okay. If I don't, there'll be another one. I'll just go after it gently. There are times for that. There are things that happen in our life that, well, my wife calls them history. I call them injuries and accidents. But history sounds better. We all have accumulated history. And we have to take our history into account when we go to do whatever it is we're going to do. We have to allow for the fact that we have accumulated over the years various infirmities, disabilities, proclivities, strengths and weaknesses, And that we also, it's not all bad. It's not all downhill. For instance, I was playing tennis with a man the other day, considerably my senior. And I hit the ball deep into the corner. He ran towards it. I couldn't see. I mean, it was deep in the corner. It's not my call. It's his call. He said, "Out!" And he muttered under his breath, "Of my reach." Only because I know him did I know that he said that. Because otherwise all I could hear in the wind and at the far end of the court was, "Out!" I saw him mouth the "of my reach." And knew that it was my point. But he's gained experience. How many people ever heard that call? "Out of my reach," in a tennis match? You know? I mean, it's like, it's a little trick. It gets him a point when he needs it now and then. Definitely. Against a new partner or a new competitor, it gets him a point now and then. You gain some ability at becoming dastardly. You gain experience. I went for a run with 3 competitors, friends, but competitors nonetheless. We went for a run. It's a 3-mile run around a loop. And we wanted to see who could run that loop the fastest. And I've been around that loop a few times in my life. I know that loop pretty well. I know every bump and turn and nook and cranny in that loop. And I made a point of cutting every corner that I could possibly cut, straightening every curve into the straightest line that I could possibly make, and shortening the route as much as humanly possible. Because there was no advantage to me in taking an extra step. And when I watched them, because I was saving the best for last, so I let them be a little in front of me at critical points, I certainly did not say anything to them when I watched them moving out of the line of the shortest possible route, as they didn't know which way the road was going to curve next. I let them go out of their way. I'll use every trick of the trade, things I never would have considered, to improve my performance. I understand that it's a good idea to test out my sports drink for the big competition at least 3 or 4 times before the big competition, until I'm sure I've got all the bugs worked out of the program. I was running a 10K race one time. I'm not much of a racer when it comes to running, but I was running a 10K race nonetheless. And it's a straight shot run. It's just straight down the highway. They close the highway to cars, and it's just a straight line. And I'm about at the 5K point when I start hearing a noise, and I'm most upset by that noise because I know it's my shoelaces hitting the pavement. I look down, and I've got an untied shoe. You know, you lose a lot of time stopping to tie your shoes. Okay, maybe it's not about fitness at that point. It was just planning and performance. We can go back to the fitness part. When you're a little kid, you're not worrying too much about your physique. But as you get older, you become more aware of it. There are parts of you that you wish you had more of, and those other parts that you wish you had less of. And it's time now, when we get to the mid-run, however long you want to perceive that as being, when you have the chance to actually develop your physique and create the physique of your dreams. And you do that through your choice of activities. Some of us understand exactly how to get bigger shoulders if we want bigger shoulders. And some of us don't understand how to do that. Whether you need to get outside help or not becomes your decision. The help is available. If you do what is required, as they say, if you do what everybody else does, you get what everybody else does, what everybody else gets. If you do the work that a bodybuilder does to build their body, your body will grow too. If you do the miles that a runner puts in, you'll develop that physique and that mindset and those strengths of character that come with the loneliness of the long-distance runner. If you play games, you develop the social skills. It's a fascinating world when we look at the top Fortune 500 companies and realize that almost every single one of the presidents of the top 500 companies have all got a history of playing team sports in school. Something about being a good team player transfers upward into other lines of other fields of endeavor. What gets better, what gets worse as a result of perhaps the sheer passage of time? Your nervous system, your quickness, your explosiveness, your power. These things tend not to continue to develop as the years go by. The 4-minute mile has never been run by a man over 40 or a woman over 40. It's never been run by a person over 40, whereas a competitive mile these days is closer to 4:44, 4:43, 3:43, 3:44. By the time we hit 40, we've lost that high-end performance. But in a longer event, I'm working with a client named Pam Bodler. I'm very proud of her. She's over 40, and she took first in the world in a 1,000-meter canoe event last week. Today, she's competing in the 200. Let's all wish her luck in the 200. I'm not holding my breath for Pam in the 200. I hope she does well. I'm sure she'll do well. By the way, had she been competing against the men, she would have taken 7th and beat a fair number of the competitors, even amongst the men, the young men in that 1,000. It's a very, very rare guy. Almost unheard of that we see people in their 20s winning marathon races. Whether it's the mental toughness, some people argue it's the mental toughness. You just haven't had time to develop the mental toughness. Some people say you just haven't had time to run enough miles. For whatever reason we don't even have to fully understand, we tend to see that as we get a little older, we tend to do better in endurance activities than we do in the sprints. As I say, the nervous system, the quickness, the reflexes, the explosiveness, and the power. And it is a good idea to, in fact, choose your fitness activities to allow for the grace of the years that as they come on us. So in fact, aging gracefully, while at the same time kicking and screaming, biting and clawing and saying, no, I'm not ready to give up what I've got. Because it's so easy to let it go, pass it on, say, oh yeah, I'm with a man that I call my Uncle Bill. He's not really my uncle. I don't have a clue how these relationship things work. He's my mother's uncle. What does that make? Is he my great Uncle Bill? My great Uncle Bill is about this tall, so I have a tough time calling him great uncle, but he is my great Uncle Bill, except I don't think he's really my mother's uncle. I think she just calls him Uncle Bill because she didn't exactly know where he fit into our family something or another's, but we'll call him Great Uncle Bill. Great Uncle Bill and I were standing admiring my two nieces, my sister's little kids, because I bought them each a trampoline when they were little kids. So they have two trampolines in the backyard, side by side. They're little girls. I don't know how old they were. By this time they were like 8 and 10 or something like that. And they're all now grown up and married. And life is good. But we're watching the kids on the trampoline doing this and that and the other thing. Nothing particularly amazingly complicated. And we're just having a joy watching the kids play. And I'm thinking to myself, I can do everything they're doing. In fact, I taught them and showed them how to do everything they're doing. And what fun it is, and I'm looking forward to go play with them in a little bit. I'm kind of getting itchy to go play with them, in fact. When my Uncle Bill said, six words that just scared the bejeebers out of me. Never forgot. He actually said 8 words, but it was just the first 6 that caught my attention. He said, I used to be able to do that. I thought, wow, I am not in a rush to start saying, I used to be able to do that. Oh. And so knowing full well that my body will gracefully accept endurance activities, I'm making a point to do the things that are a little more challenging to do. The things that I don't really, really want to do. To push the limits just a little bit. Taking full advantage of the knowledge of myself that I've gained over the years, so I'm not going to hurt myself like I would have when I was 10 or 20 or 30 out of sheer enthusiasm, having no idea where the outer boundaries were and going way past them and ending up with more injuries than anybody ever should know in their life. And now, say, you know what? I can go out and push, and I can push safely in ways that I couldn't as a kid. I have an understanding of long-term goal setting that no youngster could even appreciate. I can look 5 and 10 years down the road and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this for every day for years in ways that youngsters couldn't begin to do. I can get consistent and persistent. And then I get to pull out the ace up my sleeve. We have an advantage that youngsters don't have. They can say, I'm going to do push-ups, 1 for every year. Oh, wow. Wow, you can do 6 push-ups. I'm impressed. And then Jack LaLanne comes along and says, I can do 93. 1 for every year. Oh, that's something. Anybody here that can still do a pull-up? Raise your hand if you can still do a pull-up. 1 for every year? Maybe. All right. All of a sudden, a lot of...
40 days.
Yeah, over a period of a month, I can do 1 for every year. What an advantage to have a few extra years and say, I can do 1 for every year. And you know where your target is going. Your target is going up. Next year, it'll be 1 more. You can also get sane in your target setting. Chances are, 20 years old, you're looking to be the best in the world at whatever it is you're doing. Now, chances are, you're looking to get the most enjoyment, the most benefit, really efficient, effective training, take care of that component of your life that allows all the other things to fall into place so well to develop the balance. And you can now go look up what the world records are and set standards for yourself. I find for myself at this decade that if I can do half or twice, depending on the type of activity. If I can get half the performance of a world-class athlete at what they do, I'm pretty proud of that. They run a 2-hour and 15 marathon. If I can do a 4:30, I'm more than happy. They run a 10-second 100. If I can do 20, it's pretty good. Might seem laughable, but I don't know when the last time you timed yourself on 100. They're pole vaulting 18 feet. If I can make 9, it's pretty good. In fact, I checked, and if I can make 10 and a half, I'm winning the Senior Olympics in my age group. They can bowl a 300. I can bowl my weight. Can you bowl your weight? I'll bet you most of your friends and neighbors can't bowl their weight. Tiger can he can theoretically hit a round of 60 on a golf course. I can go under 120. I feel pretty good about that. I play golf at least once a decade. Over and over and over, we can look at the way other people... We don't have to be able to do everything in every sport. Might not choose to. What we want to choose, and what we have the intelligence to choose, is the understanding that gymnasts pretty much look like gymnasts. And ice skaters look like ice skaters. And they don't look the same. Gymnasts have big arms. Ice skaters have big legs. And dancers look the way dancers look, and runners look the way runners look, and weightlifters look the way runners look. And if you aspire to look the way any of them look, or to create your physique so that over the next 5 to 10 years it develops in the direction of the way that theirs look. You do the things that they do at your pace. I'll tell you this, though. People are funny. We tend to do the things we're good at because we like them. And we get better at them. And we like them more. And we do them more. And we get better at them. And that's way cool. I'm all in favor of that. While we put off doing the things we don't like because we're not very good at them. And we get worse. And we like them less. And we do them with less frequency. And we get worse and like them less. Until eventually, the ability to do a pull-up goes away entirely. And then you walk past the pull-up bar, and you don't even feel guilty. Oh, I can't do pull-ups. God created me physiologically impossible, not capable of doing pull-ups. It's not possible for me. Well, actually it is. We can all do pull-ups. We've got to work towards it a little bit. There's a little effort involved. There may be some development. Pretty much, if you want to get food out of a tree, you have to be able to pull up. You got to get up there somehow. There's going to be some climbing involved. Now, I understand we don't have to do that. We just go to the grocery store. We just open the fridge door. I have a client. He was 40 years old. He was dying from a disease known as Marie Strumpel's. Most people have not heard of Marie. Anybody in the room heard of Marie Strumpel's? Right. Most people have not heard of Marie Strumpel's. Ankylosing spondylitis. Bamboo spine. You die. It's a form of arthritis around your spine. And it closes in on your spinal cord. And you lose movement from head to tail. And it's incredibly painful along the way. And after 6 years, the doctors had given up on Jimmy. 6 years of disability, 6 years of every 3 months being tested in order to receive his disabilities, showing every lab symptom, showing every physical sign, x-rays, everything proved and showed his ankylosing spondylitis progressing. His brother and his dear friend, the massage therapist, brought him to me for help. It took two of them because Jimmy couldn't walk at all. They carried him in, one under each arm, his legs just dragging, his toes just dragging behind him, like he was unconscious, but they had him up because it was an easier way to carry him. He wasn't unconscious. He was extremely conscious. He was in extreme pain. And we began working together. After a few months, he could walk. And it was a very lovely thing to see that he could walk. There was progress. And Jimmy never got so weak that he couldn't open the refrigerator door. He could. But he didn't. Because as all of you know, the refrigerator door is held together by some magical form of suction that holds it closed. And somehow, when it releases, it's an all or none kind of a release. And so he could pull, but he didn't have the physical skills. He didn't have the neurological skills to be able to adjust for the recoil of the door letting go. And that jolt, as he described it, would set him off into neurological spasms that would last for 3 or 4 days. And he'd be in bed writhing in pain for days every time he tried to open the fridge door. So he didn't. And it took a year before he came in one day and said, "I can open the fridge." He had developed the neurological skills. They'd come back so that he could adapt to the recoil of even that. Something that seemed that small. To us, it seems small. But I promise you, your neurological skills are not what you think they are. It's kind of the same thing as when you look in the mirror. Have you noticed? The person that looks back is rarely who you're expecting. It's some older person looking back at you, that unrecognizable. I can only come up with one conclusion for this possibility, which is that they don't make mirrors like they used to. Apparently, a lot of things have changed since I've started living in England, because they don't make flights of stairs like they used to either. They used to be rather gentle slopes, and it was easy to go up 2 or 3 at a time. And now they're making these big steep steps that are much more difficult, and they slow you down a lot. And they don't make cameras the same. They used to take pictures of young people. I don't know what happened with all that. But I can promise you, as I've said several times through this presentation, hinting at, it's not your strength that goes away. It's not your flexibility that goes away. Although, if you don't take care of business at home, it will go away. It's not your endurance that goes away, or even your muscular endurance. Neither your cardio endurance nor your muscular endurance that goes away. What goes away is your neurological capacities. Your balance, coordination, agility, mobility, stability, proprioception, kinesthetic awareness, your overall quickness, your reflexes. And this is the area where it's time to start putting in a little more attention than you used to. This is the area that goes away before you realized what happened. This is your fine-tuning that allows you to move with grace and finesse and to still exhibit the force that you used to exhibit because you can control it. We watch people all the time lose their balance, break a leg, lose their balance, fall down. There is a basic principle to training that applies to all areas of training. It's called overload and recovery. We must use and utilize and persist in creating overload and then supplying the appropriate conditions, substances, forces, and influences necessary for appropriate recovery. Enough sleep, fresh air, sunshine, mental attitude, proper foods, fruits, and vegetables. And all the rest that you need, as much rest and sleep as you require. Overload the neurological skills. Remember the game concentration? Deck of cards, face down, turn one over, turn the other over, try to find a match, put them both down again. It's harder to play now than it used to be. but it's neurological skill. Remember, don't step on a crack or something bad will happen to your mother. Try it again. Develop the neurological skills, the footwork that comes with dancing and moving and balancing, standing on one foot with your eyes closed, and on through the neurological parts of whatever it is that you do that you're still enjoying. Strengthen your strengths into weapons of fitness. But take your weaknesses and develop them into strengths. And you'll be training smarter instead of harder, getting more out of it and more out of it as the years go by. Your weak links will show up. More and more, your weak links will stand out as you get older. Take your weakest links and turn those into strengths. And hopefully, keep turning your strengths into weapons so that even on the tennis court, no one can take advantage of you at any age. Use your wisdom, but develop your body. Take advantage of every aspect of that you can, so that at 30, 40, 50, 60, and on through the years, you just keep getting fitter. Thanks very much.